They do the show.
First is a quick introduction. My name is Jeremy Yates. I'm the supervisor for the Casper Area Metropolitan Planning Organization. We're simulcasting this. Can I get you to turn your volume down? Okay, so we're just simulcasting this on a Teams meeting with a bunch of other stakeholders and consultants. We're trying to limit, of course, how many people we get in one space. We want to make sure everybody's safe. So what the Casper Area Metropolitan Planning Organization does is a really brief overview. So it waits for a train. It's,
No.
yeah, I'll do that really quick.
When you talk, I'll get the door.
Okay. Also, this is Renee. She's also at the Casper Metropolitan Planning Organization. So what the Metropolitan Planning Organization does is we get federal funding through YDOT, and we work with all of the municipalities, cities, and towns in the county in our area to make sure that the planning for transportation, everything from roads to walking paths in some areas, trains and airplanes functions within the jurisdiction, and that people in the community have input into the process, which is what we're doing right now for our Lathrop traffic study. So last year, we have a certain budget every year that we get from YDOT. We ask the jurisdictions, would you identify some projects that we can fund to do transportation planning? And this was a project that came up last year. So we went out and our office is pretty small, so we work with a lot of consultants. We went out to RFP, put out a request for proposals on consultants that could come in and do the traffic study for us. This traffic study is focusing on Curtis and Lathrop, and that's Curtis Street, Lathrop, and the intersections at Curtis, specifically at Curtis and Lathrop and Curtis and Blackboard. We're looking at safety, traffic patterns, some trail connectivity, and things like that. So what we're planning with this public event was we would show you what we found so far in the data gathering phase, go over the options that we're looking at, what the traffic patterns are like, what the issues are that we've identified, and some suggestions from our consultant to that Evansville might do in the future to change the streetscape or change traffic and things like that. So generally what happens is we have a certain amount of public meetings with any given project. This project only has one, but so then we'll take your feedback, do a draft report, then we publish that report for public comment, usually for about 4 weeks. It'll be available in our office, online, at Evansville Town Hall, usually the Evansville Library, anywhere Janelle will let me put it. And then we get comments, work those into the final report, and give it to the municipalities to approve. And then with any luck in the future, we've got a nice planned transportation. So I hope that covers it. Is there any questions right off the bat?
I've got one.
Go ahead. That was not what I was expecting. Okay, what's up?
I tried to turn off the volume and in the process kicked myself out of Teams.
Oh, good.
Now I don't think anybody can hear me on this.
All right, well, we will.
And once again, my presentation.
You're still on.
What?
Yeah, and you're not even muted. So, like I said, I appreciate you guys working with us on some. You're trying to get this living in a new reality. So.
Slideshow. Should be screen 2.
That work? It's not screen 2. Oh,
nothing's happening.
that work.
Okay.
So the format we're going to do is a presentation from Ed. Then we'll have a period for questions and comments. If you get a lot more people showing up, we'll probably run the whole system again.
Jeremy's still not working.
Oh no.
Let me try. Okay, there it is.
Okay. All right.
I'll use the arrow buttons. Right. Jeremy, just saying, I'm Ed Waddell, I'm Western Research and Development in Cheyenne. We do traffic, urban planning, surveying, civil engineering. And I'm an urban planner. I went to school 40 years ago, and then went to the Air Force and flew jets for a while, and came back and went to graduate school. And then I did 15 years at the DOT in Michigan, working on a lot of different things. I was the roundabout guru for 15 years there, and then got a job at Ourston Roundabout Engineering, and then got a job working at Western Research and Development in Cheyenne, and that's where I am now. But one of my favorite things to do is rather than working on great big interchanges that, you know, nobody really experiences except in a car, I like working with littler things, with people and you know, pedestrians and bicycles and cars and trucks and all kinds of things to try and make it all mesh and work well together safely. So that's what I do. But the Lathrop Road traffic study, as Jeremy mentioned, is a contract with the Casper Metropolitan Planning Organization on behalf of the town of Evansville, YDOT, and they're the ones who own the roads that we're working on. Those roads are, as you see right here. The study area is a larger area. It goes all the way out to Hat 6 Road, but that's just the land use area that we're evaluating, what happens if that develops. The roads that we're studying are there in orange, and that would be Curtis Street between US 20 and the I-25 westbound off-ramps, and then Lathrop, the whole length, and then a section of Blackmore from US 20 down to, the name of that street escapes me, but you can see it on the map. And then the intersection of US 20 with Blackmore Road. The area has changed quite a bit. This is an aerial image from 1994, 26 years ago. And we can see that at that time, development was confined to this area. And it's all still like it was. It's still hotel, restaurant, activities associated with the interchange. And that's common all over the United States. The rest of this area from here out was empty. Right here is a mobile home park. Here is some vacant land, and here are some oil tanks. And back then, that was all that was there. At the time, Lathrop continued on and tied into US 2026 right here. And you can see from the next slide that that changed by 2006. You still didn't have much development in here. This area was still undeveloped. There's an expansion of the oil facility into this lot right here. And Blackmore has been realigned to tie into US 20 where Lathrop used to be, which that's what confused me about Lathrop and Blackmore. Why are they calling it Lathrop and it's not Lathrop anymore? But I finally noticed this and said, oh yeah, that explains it. And then by 2019, a lot has changed. You've got new restaurants out in here. You've got a brand new Murdoch's, I believe. And then you've got some light industrial development filling in here. You got a new hotel right here, the Come On In, and a brand new light industrial park, I would call it, that is full of oil industry, spin-off industries, specializations. So there's a lot going on, and that's pretty much the current state of affairs in the area. But as you can see, between 2006 and 2019, there was a big slug of development that took place very quickly, and that generated a bunch of traffic. So let's look at the roads. This is kind of a traffic engineer's dream. I don't think we'll plan anything this extreme for for Evansville. But this is Curtis Street. Right now, it's a 30-mile-an-hour state principal arterial with about 12,000 vehicles a day. And that has come way down from where it was about 6 years ago, which was 18,000 vehicles a day. And what's happened is that the oil economy was booming, so you had a lot of traffic associated with all the activity, and then the oil industry kind of slumped, and the traffic slumped along with it. So you see the traffic changing in response to the economy. But there's a lot that can happen here. You've got 150 feet of right-of-way right there. So you've got a lot of wiggle room to move the road around, widen it, narrow it, whatever needs to be done. And there's a lot of different things that can be done in this area. In particular, this area right down in here is enormous. So there's all kinds of potential uses down in there. Right now, they have I think it's a 78-foot road cross-section, which is unusually wide. And I went out there, and we looked around, and there was a 9-foot area outside of the 2 travel lanes. You got 2 travel lanes in each direction, and then a 9-foot area, and I could not figure out what that was for, particularly in an urban area. And Chad from YDOT explained that that's a breakdown lane. And I thought, well, how often do people break down? You need a lane for that? I mean, you've got driveways and parking lots all along both sides, so there's plenty of places for drivers to go if they break down. They can go off the road completely. So that raises another potential use of space that could be changed to provide optimal use. Another thing that's interesting here is that all of these are private driveways. This is called Luker Lane, this is called Leard Lane, but they're both private roads. So these are all driveways. There's 6 of them, 3 on each side. Looking now at West Lathrop Road, just east of Curtis, you've got a lot of room to play with there. Right now, it's just a 2-lane, 30-foot wide asphalt road. And, the problems that it has right now are people turning left here. And if you look at the aerial, you can see the tire marks from hundreds and hundreds of vehicles squawking to try and beat the traffic coming in either direction. They think, I think I can make it, and off they go, right? So you can see them doing that just from looking at the tire marks. A lot of driveways along here. These 2 could be consolidated into 1 driveway, and that would eliminate some conflicts. Here's Lathrop Road to the east. The right-of-way narrows down to about 80 feet out in here. It's all 30 miles an hour. Functions as a local collector. It really doesn't have any problems, and we don't foresee any capacity problems, at least nothing in the near future. What isn't there is pedestrian facilities. You've got a pedestrian generator right here, mobile home park. You've got pedestrian attractors down here, all these restaurants and commercial facilities, and no way to get between them without walking in the grass or on the road. So that's an issue to be addressed. Here's Blackmore Road. As I said, it was realigned. It's about an 80-foot right-of-way. It was realigned about 2003. Right now it has a maximum of about 3,600 vehicles per day. And what you'll get during the peak hour is about 1/10 of that. So it'd be about 360 with a 60-40 split. So you're looking at, a PM peak hour, 360 vehicles, about 200 in one direction, 160 in the other. So it's really not that busy traffic. If you think about it, 360 vehicles in 60 minutes works out to 6 vehicles a minute. So it's pretty easy to get across. Here's US 26 Yellowstone Highway. This one has about double the traffic as Blackmore. It's a 55-mile-an-hour state principal arterial. That might need to change. What's happening is all that urban development is taking place on a road that used to be a rural highway. Now it's an urban area So it's time to rethink what speed is appropriate in that location. Another interesting aspect of this is, and we've got a comment from a citizen about a pedestrian crossing in this area. The nearest pedestrian crossing is 1.4 miles away. And I went out there with two experienced traffic engineers, and they looked at it and they said, we don't want pedestrians out there. You know, so there's this conflict going on between, you know, the safety of pedestrians and asking them to walk almost 3 miles round trip to the nearest crosswalk, which is unrealistic. They're going to cross somewhere. Somebody's going to need to cross, and they're going to cross somewhere. So some solution to that is necessary. One of the problems with this location is this is a crowned surface, and what that means is the road's tilted as an arc, like so. So when you look at on the near side, you can see the lanes. But when you look at the far side, you can't see the lane stripes because it's lined up with your eyes. The road surface is right there, so you can't see your target lane from Blackmore Road. That's another concern. I'm going to talk briefly about the traffic volumes. This is probably going to bore everybody, but bear with me. I will do my best to get through it quickly. This is Curtis Street south of Lathrop. And as I said previously, it was up above 18,000 vehicles a day back in 2014, and now 6 years later, it's at about 11,800 a day. You know, this is a combination of a number of factors. The COVID economy is going slow. The oil industry has declined, which, you know, it's a cyclical industry. It's liable to come back up and back down over time. But this shows the effect of that. We don't want to read too much into this. This is a short-term 10-year trend. You know, traffic tends to grow over time. Lathrop east of Curtis, same sort of pattern. Peaked at about 5,000 vehicles a day, and now it's down at 2,600 or so. So what happened here is that when at this point, people were going, this is crazy, we need a traffic study, right? So somebody said, okay, let's program a traffic study right about in here, right? And then the traffic study starts right here, right? So now everybody's going, what's the problem? You know? Well, the problem is there's traffic there and it's coming back. Well, at least we're going to anticipate that it will. Here's Lathrop west of Blackmore, and this one's a really telltale. Remember that construction that took place down there? There it is. That's the traffic from all that construction that was taking place down there on the southwest corner of Blackmore and Lathrop. And it's tapered back off again. Now, when those other areas fill in, it might go back up again. So we're going to come up with a reasonable forecast trend line, and it should stabilize within about 15 to 20 years as that development fills in that you saw. There's still about 25% of the land is undeveloped. Here's Yellowstone Highway. This one is a regional arterial, so this one gives you a better idea of what's happening all over the area. Lathrop Road is heavily dependent on oil industry and secondary oil industry, spin-off industries. This is the whole region. So this is what's happening in the Casper metropolitan area and other areas around Casper. And you see the economy has declined, but not tremendously, you know. We're right now at about 5,000 a day, and it was up around 6,500. So you're down about 20% from the maximum a few years ago. This one is really going to throw everybody, and I know this is horrible to look at. Let me walk up and point this out. You saw the tire marks on the pavement. This is why. Right now you've got 400 vehicles southbound during the peak hour, 398. You got 450 northbound, and you got 111 vehicles trying to turn left out of Lathrop and go south. So these 111 vehicles are trying to find the gap in these 900 cross movements right here. Right? This is diminished quite a bit from 6 years ago. 6 years ago, the queue was probably 10, 20 cars deep. The deepest we saw this year was about 6, but it's still there. So the problem is, how do we get these vehicles out of here safely and let them merge into this southbound traffic flow and get down to I-25? That's the problem I see in this traffic pattern. Here's pedestrians and bicycles. On this particular day, it was kind of chilly, so there weren't any bicyclists out, but there were quite a few pedestrians. During the AM peak, there was only one here. There were 5 here. During midday, there were 2 that crossed on the east side. And then during the afternoon peak, there were 4 on the west side, 2 on the east side, and 1 sprinter. There's no crosswalk there. I don't know if he made it all the way across in one jump or if he stopped at the center turn lane, but there's a reason why people do that. We've got quite a few trucks. In some cases, 35% trucks, which is pretty high percentage. Other places have fewer than that, 20% or so. But the YDOT design vehicle for all the YDOT roads, which includes Curtis Street and US 2026, is what's called a WB62, which is a 62-foot long semi. So the geometry of the road has to be able to accommodate that vehicle. And when it turns, it sweeps out this path. So if it makes a U-turn, it sweeps out that entire path that you see right here, that whole width. If it's making a short turn, the width is much narrower. If it's making a 90-degree turn, the width is like that. So that's what the roadway system has to accommodate, is that geometric. We're also looking at the bus service. Right now, the Route 3 bus serves Lathrop Road and Curtis. There's a bus stop right here, which is in front of the daycare center, excuse me. And then bus stops 3 and 4, or excuse me, bus stop 2 is in front of IHOP. And 3 and 4 are down at the driveways of the Aspens Mobile Home Park. So whatever we design, we want to make sure it accommodates these bus movements. In particular, the fellow at the bus department told us this left turn has to be done, right? And so the bus needs to be able to make that turn safely. Let's talk about safety for a minute. This is not Evansville. This is actually someplace in Missouri, I think. Doesn't matter. Every interchange has this exact same problem every few days. And you'll see that here shortly. These are the crashes that I'm talking about. This is the westbound off-ramp. North is to the left here. US 20 is on the far left. The I-25 westbound ramps are on the right. The green, all these are crashes that were from the YDOT crash database. Every crash that's recorded goes into the crash database, and then I can go over there and ask him, well, how many crashes happened on this stretch of road between this point and this point? So they pulled up all the roads that were, all the crashes that were keyed as being on Curtis Street. And this is what they come up with. By far, the vast majority are at the I-25 westbound ramps. And what's happening there is you've got higher volumes, and you've got a signal, and you've got a crossroad. A crossroad it's designed under the principle, you got a 90-degree angle. You fire vehicles in at 30, 40, 50 miles an hour. And you hope nobody ever makes a mistake, because a broadside collision is one nasty thing. And occasionally they get pretty bad. As you can see here, that red one is a severe injury. There are no fatalities, no black stars, fortunately, but there is a severe injury recorded here. Chief, you said that you saw a crash in this location as well, or nearby. Where was the crash you observed, the injury crash?
My time being 2 years and 5 or 6 months, we had, I watched a bike get crashed into here with somebody running the light. five here, and some of this is older data. And then.
Yeah, this is 5 years of data.
So, let's see, okay, so Curtis, so here's the gas station.
Here, yeah, this is Curtis
So
right here.
right here, we had the rear end, all passengers, the SUV went to the hospital after hit and run driver there.
Okay, that one hasn't showed up in their data yet.
There's probably 8 crashes since I've been here. I'm not seeing on that.
Okay. But at any rate, if you look at the pattern, you get crossing traffic in higher volume, you get more crashes. Higher speed, you get greater severity. We've got a few of these crashes that were keyed onto Curtis Street. And then when I asked him for the Lathrop Road one, this is what they came up with. And there's 10 of them that were keyed onto Lathrop Road. So that intersection is having a lot of crashes, you know? And so all this data is pointing to one thing. We've got a lot of vehicles crossing each other. We've got tire marks on the pavement showing that people are squawking it to get out of there. And the pattern is proving it out. So,
And just,
yes.
I do want to let you know, Chief, the crash data that we get comes like after public safety, we submit to whiteout, we get it after it's been scrubbed, so we're usually, sorry, go ahead.
No problem. So this is Lathrop Road. As you can see, there's a big cluster down here at Curtis. There's a few associated with driveways, and then there's a few scattered along the way that don't really constitute a pattern. Most of these are single vehicle, went off the road, not paying attention. Maybe they're on a cell phone, who knows what. But these are not what you'd consider a correctable pattern. This is a cluster in one location that can be addressed. I did want to point out down here where I said there was very low volumes. You know, there's no crashes either. No traffic causes crashes, and there's no traffic, so there's no crash. Now here's the intersection of Blackmore and US 2026 Yellowstone Road. This one here, I described a problem where it's difficult for a driver at this location to see where he's going out here because of the crown of the road. Looking at it from straight above, you can see the stripes and everything's obvious. But from the ground level, you can't see it. And this guy's also got to clear for a traffic gap in this direction. So he's looking to the left, and he's also looking for a gap to the right. And this traffic is going 55 miles an hour. If he misjudges this gap, he's in serious trouble. And that's what we've seen happen here. Here's a broadside collision right here. There were two people, or there were two crashes. There was a rear end collision here. This guy started to go, and then he says, oh, shoot, I can't go yet. So he hit the brake. The guy rear-ended it behind him because he thought he was going to go. So these are all caused by this geometric relationship. You got a lot of vehicles coming from this way, a lot of vehicles coming from this way, and this guy's desperately trying to find the right time to make that left turn. Sometimes he guesses right, sometimes he doesn't. The penalty is very severe for any mistake. That covers the safety aspects. I wanted to talk about roadway functional class, which is another exciting aspect. There's basically 4 types of roads. There's a freeway, an arterial, a collector road, and a local street. And they have different functions. A freeway, like I-25 here at Curtis Street, that's for moving a lot of traffic at high speed with very few access points. So that road's function is for mobility only, right? And the access points are on and off ramps where things can merge and diverge very gently. So you can move a lot of traffic at high speed very safely on that type of road. An arterial, such as Wyoming Boulevard, you see here, I think this is just south of the mall, is a step down from that. It's still moving a lot of traffic at high speeds. The access is limited. Nowadays they limit it as much as possible. Some of these old driveways are grandfathered in. And then you've got a step down further is a collector street, such as Lathrop we see here. And its function is more to provide access to a larger area at a lower speed. So Lathrop's operating at 30 miles an hour. And then you've got local streets such as Susan Lane or Craig Thomas Boulevard that we see here. And their access is, their purpose is just to provide access. That's all they do, right? They're not for mobility. Their speed limit might be 20 to 30 miles an hour. So that's what they do. And that's how these roads are classified by the Casper MPO. This is just repeating what I just said. Higher speed for mobility like freeways, stepping down to arterials, collector streets, and then local streets. The speed goes down, the number of driveways goes up, access is, the purpose of local streets is for access, the purpose of major arterials is for mobility. And there's a step down in between. So this is kind of how it's been portrayed in the literature. And you can see here that, you get increasing access on the x-axis, you got increasing mobility on the y-axis, and you got different types of roads in between. So we're looking at this from a standpoint of making the roads function the way they're intended and, function more safely. Access management is a key principle of doing that. Now, I just wanted to compare the slide on the left and the slide on the right. Now, the slide on the left has 3 driveways, and there's no median, so it's wide open movements. Each one of these can turn right, they can turn left, they can go straight across, people can turn right in. And when they do that, each one of these has 8 conflict points. So you can get hit here, you can get hit here, you can get hit by this movement. So when you put them all together, you've got 24 different conflict points, or 24 different places where a crash can take place, right? Where vehicle movements are crossing each other. If you reduce that to one driveway, it reduces the number of conflicts from 24 to 8. Right? So you've eliminated 16 conflict points by consolidating all that to one driveway. And then if the circulation can take place off the main road, you've eliminated a lot of safety conflicts on the roadway. And then if you construct a median, which they have done here, so they've taken out the center left turn lane and put a median in, it drops the conflicts from 8 to 2. So this is right in, right out. That's all. So the only conflicts they have are a diverge movement here and a merging movement here. Those tend to take place at low speed at an acute angle, so they tend not to have injuries, or at least not severe injuries like we saw previously. So that's one way to reduce conflicts in a roadway system. Here are a couple more ways. This one shows a median with a cut through. Here you allow a left turn out of the driveway, and he can hit the people turning into the driveway, he can hit somebody crossing this way, he can hit somebody crossing in the other lane, and he can hit somebody crossing in the opposite lane. So this is kind of like Lathrop right here. Right? So Lathrop's you're trying to make a left turn, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4 different places you can get hit. And that's what drivers are contending with. On the right is a comparison of a crossroads intersection versus a roundabout intersection. At this type of intersection, you've got 32 different conflict points. And this would be something like I-25 off ramps at Curtis Street. And you saw what the pattern looked like there. That's just a one-way. When you throw in an opposing flow in both directions, there are 32 different places where you can get whacked. The ones in the center here tend to occur at higher speed. Those are the ones like head-ons, head-on left turn collisions, broadside collisions, the ones that will put you in the hospital. When, comparison, if you put a median or a roundabout in the center of this and force everybody to slow down, you go from 32 conflict points to 8. And instead of being crossing conflicts, they're merging and diverge conflicts. So they're much slower, much more survivable. So in this, putting it simply, in this type of a crossroad intersection, the penalty for a mistake is very severe. In this roundabout type intersection, the penalty for a mistake is a fender bender, but you probably will not get hauled away to the hospital. So that's an important point. Here's another type. This is unusual. This is a median U-turn or indirect left turns. They were invented in Detroit, and there they call them Michigan lefts. And in this case, you just eliminate the crossing movements, you eliminate the left turns, you eliminate the left turns here, and they're all gone. So the only thing you can do, say if you're on Blackmore, is to pull up here, look to your left, nobody coming, make your right turn, stop here, look to your right, nobody coming, complete your turn. So this takes the complexity of that decision coming off of Blackmore and simplifies it. Instead of looking in two directions where it's hard to discern what's going on, you only look in one direction. And the same thing in the opposite direction. So it separates out those two decisions into two separate locations, so you don't have to do it all at once. You don't have to have eyes in the back of your head.
So are there an example of this anywhere on right now?
No, nothing quite like this. Now, Jeremy, you were saying you had something
No,
similar to this?
I was thinking about some of the, like, mitigated medians at CY and Hopper, going with Albertsons and things like that, but nothing quite like this.
Well, this is a treatment that's quite common in Michigan. It's started to get picked up in other states, Arizona and so on. I think Tucson has built quite a few.
I think there's something similar like that in Gillette.
Is there?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of similar stuff. But the purpose of this is, and the way it's been used a lot in Michigan is because of all the urbanization. Old, formerly rural divided highways have developed with urban development on both sides. So the speed has had to come down, and they've had to be adjusted to meet the needs of access on either side of the road. So the access movements on both sides of the road have increased.
So how do you deal with the truck traffic? Because if we did something like that, you're going to completely piss off the refinery.
Well, you can still get to the refinery. It's not really obvious on this. I have a better slide coming up later.
I've driven a truck.
Yeah.
I just drive over the median. I would not take this.
Well, now I haven't forgotten you. I mean, I know you've got a truck and you've got to get that truck where you need to go. All right. Now suppose you're coming from the west. You would come down here, take the off ramp, sit right here, and if you're a truck, you've got 100-foot diameter bulb out right here. So you can use this whole area to turn in and make your right turn.
You can call it traffic at 5, 60 miles per hour from Nashville.
Yeah. Well, right, exactly. And that's the difference here, right? Right now, you're coming along, you make your turn here. So essentially you turn here and then you pull in, right? If you're bringing a truck from here, you try and go across. And I know your semi accelerates pretty slow, and you got 55 mile an hour traffic coming from both sides. So your conflicts along here are pretty difficult, right? If all you have to do is clear in one direction and make a right, and then clear in this direction and make a left, and you've got all this area for your truck to make that movement. Like I said, I've got a better slide here in a little bit. I'll show you what it looks like. But at any rate, you've eliminated a lot of conflicts points here, and you've solved some of the issues. But no intersection is perfect. Here's a non-motorized system. This is half of it, anyway. There's a pretty good sidewalk on Curtis Street. This is the east side of Curtis. I do not know what this is for. There's this gravel area that chunked out of the sidewalk, and I don't know how that got there or why. I found a sidewalk over in Cokeville has a telephone pole in the middle of the sidewalk. Why they built it that way is anybody's guess. But looking at the existing sidewalks, this is it. This is all there are in our study area. They're pretty good condition. They follow the outside right-of-way along Curtis Street. This is the east side of Curtis. This is the west side of Curtis. This is US 20 Yellowstone, and this is the I-25 westbound ramps. The east sidewalk comes along here, and then it goes across, and then there's no sidewalk over here. I don't know why. On the west side, it continues. You can see the sidewalk on this side. The crossing is kind of misaligned. I'm not sure how that was laid out. But you got pretty good pedestrian service along here. The sidewalks are nice and wide. They meet the standards for the Americans with Disabilities Act. They've all got ramps. They're all at least 5 feet wide, so they're sufficient for what they do. But there are no sidewalks on Lathrop, none at all on Blackmore, and those are becoming issues. Here's the crosswalks. You have 2 crosswalks on Curtis. One is right here. It's a marked zebra crossing with pedestrian actuated signals. The walk, no walk sign. Same thing down here, except there's no zebra crossing, no marked crosswalk. But you do have pedestrian actuated signal heads. So you do have a pedestrian phase if the pedestrian pushes the button. These are 700 feet apart, which is a 3-minute and 20-second walk at nominal walking speed, somebody my age. Some pedestrians will do that. I mean, if you say you wanted to go from the HQ barbecue over to the Loaf and Jug, and if you walk down to the crosswalk, it's 3 minutes and 20 seconds. Now, if you were sitting at a traffic light for 3 minutes and 20 seconds, you'd be calling your traffic engineer down at Whiteout saying, why am I sitting at this traffic light for 3 minutes and 20 seconds? Right? But when it's only a pedestrian, who cares? Really? And oddly enough, pedestrians are represented at 3 times the fatality rate of all other users of the roadway system. They're a lot more vulnerable, and there's very few good facilities for them, right? But I digress. But the point being, some of the pedestrians will make that long walk to the crosswalk. Some just won't. And as we saw in the traffic counts earlier, during rush hour, PM peak rush hour, one guy actually did cross here. Why, I don't know. Casper Rail Trail is a major non-motorized facility. It's planned for connection clear out to Edna K. Wilkins State Park, which is 5 or 6 miles to the east. And it crosses both Curtis and Blackmore in the study area. There's as we pointed out previously, a signalized crosswalk at Curtis. At Blackmore, there's no indication that there's any pedestrian facility at all. And we would recommend adding some indication that there's a pedestrian area so that drivers are aware of it. They may not be looking for pedestrians. We'll try and make sure that they are. That's a cheap solution. In the future, this area is planned for a major new pedestrian way, and it would be on the east side of Blackmore from underneath I-25, and I think this is 2nd Street down here, and then run up to past our connection here at Lathrop, and then continue on to the Casper Rail Trail right here. Now, when 2 different people independently come up with the same idea, there's usually something to it. And our staff came up with the idea of a pedestrian waypoint here, a bench, perhaps a shelter of some kind to get out of the rain, a trail map, kiosk, that sort of thing, at this location. And that would be where the Blackmore Trail ties in with the Casper Rail Trail. And what they're proposing at I-25 is what you see right here. This is a 10-foot width pedestrian way. There's a bicyclist on it there. It's a little bit higher than the roadway because that's the way the slope is cut for the underpass. But you can see that there's plenty of room to do that, and it's already in the plan. So rather than try and compete with it, we're going to work with it. So we're going to propose to build a crosswalk over from Lathrop across Blackmore to the Blackmore Trail, and then they would be able to connect in either direction to the rest of the network. The hope is at some point they'll build a trail on the other side as well. Our natural assets inventory was part of the study, and this is Pat Ehrman. She's a very intrepid landscape architect. On this very cold day, she walked the entire corridor, making notes, taking pictures, and seeing what was there. And she spotted a lot of stuff and came up with some great ideas. And I'm just glad she's part of the team. So what did she spot? This is one of the pictures that she took up on top of the hill. I think this is near one of the hotels. I'm sorry, what did you say, Chief? Outback. Okay, yeah. Well, from here you've got a really broad vista, and this whole area between that parking lot and Lathrop Road is all public right-of-way. So there's plenty of room in here to have some kind of pedestrian waypoint where you could have a bench, maybe even a shelter of some sort, so that pedestrians, after climbing the hill or on their way up, just see the view and want to stop and enjoy it, they could sit right there and enjoy the view and rest for a minute on the way down the trail. On the left, you see the view west from the Comfort Inn, and that's a very wide and extensive view. And as you're walking to the east, you get the same effect when you get down by the Texas Roadhouse. We would think that the pedestrian way would go through here. There's a nice wall here that would get warm in the sunshine. So a shelter somewhere in this location or a bench or something would be a nice, warm, sheltered location with a view to the east. That could be a very nice facility. One issue here is that this is the only location where you have a hotel on the other side of Lathrop, on the interstate side. And so with the pedestrian trail on this side and this on the other side, we would anticipate some pedestrians trying to cross in here. So some sort of improvements in there to make that possible would be a good idea. One of the problems is this hill creates a limited sight distance condition. So we want to make sure that whatever we put in there is obvious to drivers.
You simply put in crossing similar to a street light where when they come up, they hit a button, the sign flashes.
Yeah, there's a couple of different types. There's a hawk signal and there's a rectangular rapid flash beacon. YDOT has warrants for those, and they would be applied. We were thinking that just a street light would be good. But we haven't really solved that problem yet. We do know that based on our observations, and again, when multiple people come up with the same idea, there's usually something to it. And what we've proposed here is a corridor with 7 different waypoints along the way. This is 1.5 miles from one end to the other. So that's a pretty good walk. And what Pat recommended is that we break that up by having places to stop along the way. Maybe some benches here at the 2 bus stops, maybe some kind of facility, some shade along here. She suggested this green line is a buffer between the industrial area and the pedestrians. Maybe a little bit of visual screening, like a thicker fence type or some shrubberies, something to break up the starkness of the industrial area. But here are the 2 viewpoints. So there would be one here with an extensive view of this whole area, and another one here with a view out to the east. And those would be nice locations so where people are walking up the hill, they get to the top, they can rest if they need to, and then continue on. So we think this is a really good idea. The sidewalk would be on the north side of Lathrop until we get to Craig Thomas Boulevard. And then our recommendation is to put a crosswalk here and then continue on the south side, which would serve the mobile home park and the industrial area, and then a crossing over to the new Blackmore Trail up to Casper Rail Trail. The reason we recommended the crossing here is because you've got good sight stopping distance along Lathrop. So the drivers can see the pedestrians way ahead of time, and there's nothing else to look at. We thought about this location, but at this location, there's a school bus stop, there's a regular city bus stop, and if we put a crossing in there and continue the sidewalk down and have the crossing here, then there would be a reason for the kids to go out in the street. And the last thing we need is for the kids to go out in the street when there's traffic coming or somebody running around the bus or the bus is starting up or something. So rather than tempt the kids to cross the street, we'll keep them on this side of the street, give them no reason to go over there, and then the crosswalk would be down here, well away from the school bus stop. We looked at drainage. There's a couple of issues. There's one right here at the end of Luker Lane. Doesn't seem to be a major issue. That's the 100-year floodplain in dark blue. And the main part of that lot is high and dry, so it is developable. For traffic purposes, we'll assume that it will develop as a hotel at some point in the future. The real drainage issue along here is, as you see, the floodway along Elkhorn Creek. This is draining a lot of impervious surface, a lot of pavement, a lot of roofs, a lot of asphalt, and when it rains, this is going to fill up. It's also being fed by a creek that comes through here and is a drain underneath I-25 to this big detention pond. And that drains over into another detention pond, which feeds into the Elkhorn Creek floodway. So this is something that needs to be evaluated. In particular, if this road is ever extended out into here, you need to make sure that you don't alter the characteristics of the floodplain. This will require coordination with FEMA to make sure that we're not creating a flood disaster. That would be a low mark. Utilities, Mr. Lambert finished up working with Shane yesterday and talking about issues in here. I won't go into an incredible amount of detail other than to say that and Shane, correct me if I get this garbled, but the study area seems to have plenty of wastewater capacity. There are some concerns about the potable water system. There are 2 water tanks. I think I'm not sure where they are. This scale is difficult to see, but there's a lower water tank and a higher water tank. And in order to serve this area, which is higher than the rest of Evansville, the water is pumped from the lower tank up to the higher tank, and then it flows down by gravity to service this area. What Lou is saying, there's not a lot of locations where the future system was well thought out. It's not well looped. Typically, when you build a water system, you want to have 2 loops so that it can flow in both directions. You get better capacity. Also, there's only 1 line that runs up to the higher water tank. So if anything happens to that line or the pump that pumps water up to that line, you lose water in this whole area. So, that's a place where a redundant system might be a good idea in the future. But I'll leave it at that and let the engineers talk about it in detail on their own. So now looking at all these issues that we've talked about, the crossing problems, the pedestrians trying to get from here to there, the trucks that we've got to service, the crossing movements, the conflict points. We've looked at a number of different ways that we could deal with this. I have my own preferences, you probably will too, and this is where I really want folks to let us know what you think. Because if one of these creates a problem that doesn't yet exist, and I haven't thought about it yet, I want to know. So let's have a look. Here is the Curtis corridor. Alternative number 1 is do nothing, which is always a valid alternative because we do a lot of that. We don't do anything for years and years, and then problems develop and figure it out. But if we don't do anything, what happens? Well, the crashes will stay the same. Access will remain difficult. People will still squawk their tires trying to get out of Lathrop, and every once in a while they won't succeed. And then the pedestrian systems will be unimproved. Now, the traffic data shows that nobody has been hit making this maneuver on foot, but that doesn't mean it will never happen. It just means it hasn't happened. This is one of the things that we found in the safety audit that was a concern. The pedestrians are crossing at this location, and they're going to continue to unless we find a better solution. Here's another solution. Our signal engineer came up with this. You know, his main tool is the signal. So for him, every problem looks like it. No, there's no signal there. Right? So he came up with this. And technically, this is feasible. He said that the signal system from here south is coordinated along Wyoming Boulevard, but this one operates independently. And it's got an odd condition. I'm trying to think of the name of it, where it functions on arrival. So when somebody arrives at the intersection, there's detectors there, and it turns the light green. Excuse me just a second. I gotta get a glass of water. Right back. Oh, that helps. Thank you for your patience. Okay, well, one of the issues here is that the distance between this driveway, which is a private driveway, and this public street, the center lines are 100 feet apart. And when you have two signals right here, if somebody's waiting to make a left turn, there's only about 80 feet in here, or 78 feet, which is enough room for 3 cars. If you get demand greater than that, then you've got interlocking left turn storage. So this is a solution in some ways. It's cheaper than some. These signals would probably cost about $200,000. But you've got the problem of the interlocking left turns. So that's an issue that is a concern. It also doesn't fix the conflicts with the driveways. You still got these driveways sitting up here, and you've got this one that's very close to this signal. So how do you coordinate that with this driveway? And so it's still an issue. And here's a solution that's been proposed for some years. This would be to realign Lathrop Road with Luker Lane. So you would move Lathrop to the north and tie it in with Luker Lane with a signal. This solves some problems, but it creates others. One is you've lost all the pedestrian space along the north side of Lathrop. In order to line it up with Luker, you lose that space. So all of this right-of-way is now gone, and all your open space is down here near the interstate. So now you've got a problem of where do you put the pedestrians? Maybe you put the crossing out here someplace, I don't know. But, and now you've also created another cross intersection, and we've talked about those previously, where the severity can be pretty bad. So this is a solution, solves some problems, maybe creates other problems, and again, there's no perfect solution to anything. Another one would be closed driveways. From our traffic counts, we found that this driveway has no traffic. Right now, people drive across the adjacent lot to get to it. So people pull in here to go there. There's a few using this. Most use this, Luker Lane, because this appears to be a street, and most people think it is. Maybe it should be a street. So closing that one, and maybe merging it with the other one to create one driveway, maybe right here at the lot line. might be a solution. This driveway is very close to the intersections, so maybe that one needs to go. This one is on the approach side of the intersection. This is a stop condition, so this is a slow speed. This is maybe not so problematic. These two are pretty close together. There's probably no need to have two. There's not enough traffic volume to require it. If the Baymont Inn would talk to IHOP and the dog wash, maybe we could come up with a safer solution for their customers. There's another possible solution, the medians. We talked about the effect of medians for access management. We've just, of the 8 conflicts here, we just eliminated 4 of them, right? Just by doing that. Problem is, how do you get from northbound here to here? So that's an issue. So maybe you shorten up the median, but now it's less effective because you've got left turns where you didn't have before. You got crossing movements again. So, how do you make these medians function? You got to be able to make a U-turn somewhere in order to turn around and have access to the property. Well, here's a U-turn. We looked at this. This is entirely feasible. It's 150 feet from here to here, and 150 feet of right-of-way allows you to have a 150-foot diameter roundabout. We could even make it bigger because we've got this whole area out here. I showed you what the truck looks like, the WB62. That vehicle has a 46-foot turn radius or 92-foot diameter of turn radius. This is 150 feet of diameter. So this is way bigger than that semi would need. This would handle all the capacity that intersection would ever require. It doesn't need to be coordinated with the nearby signals because it operates independently. The driver coming in from Lathrop, who wants to turn left, looks left. If nobody's coming, he goes, and he's got the right-of-way here, so he just continues around the roundabout, and he's on his way. So he only has to clear in one direction. It's a very simple maneuver, low speed, and it's an acute angle with intercept, so that if he does make a mistake, nobody's going to the hospital. So this essentially solves that left turn problem, right? Now, as far as the U-turns, say if you're coming out of this driveway and you want to turn left and there's a median here, you turn right and make a U-turn. So that eliminates that also. You would also have to have some kind of place to turn around up here. Maybe maybe you don't accommodate trucks everywhere, right? Maybe you just have a U-turn for cars only at the intersection. I've seen that done down in Colorado. It seems to work fine. So maybe, a median along here in concert with a roundabout for U-turns would be a good solution. There's another possible solution. This would be the installation of access roads. WYDOT doesn't really like access roads. They create as many problems as they solve. There's one along the north side of US 2026 that creates issues with the intersection at Curtis Street. So they're trying to figure out how to solve that, and they'd just like to make that road go away. It's not always possible to make a road go away. People need access to their properties. But there's enough right-of-way here that you could put an access drive on one or both sides and then use that to consolidate this driveway access that takes place. The question is, where do you tie it back in? Do you tie it back in here at Luker? Do you bring it all the way down to Lathrop? How would you tie this back into the existing system? And can you make it work safely? Because what you do is you take all this driveway traffic and dump it down into here. If we look at the previous one, what this does is it creates a right in and right out of these driveways. This driveway would have to go away, but you'd have this driveway and this driveway. And then if they want to turn left, they would exit down here, turn right, and then make their left turn at the roundabout. So it eliminates all the left turns in the system. Instead of turning left, they turn right and make a U-turn. All right, let's look at Lathrop. Again, this road has no capacity issues that we could find, with the exception of the Curtis Street intersection. Some improved street lighting in strategic locations, provision of sidewalks or a greenway type shared use non-motorized facility would go a long way to making this road a lot more pleasant environment for everyone. And again, as Pat mentioned or described in her report, we would have 7 different waypoints along the way where we would have perhaps shade, some kind of maybe a bench, just a wide area, something to set it apart from the rest of the corridor and make it a resting place. Lathrop at Blackmore, we went out there with our safety expert and our civil engineer. Our safety expert is Del McCombie. He used to be the head engineer for White-Eye some years ago, and really knows his stuff. And he spots things that I don't even notice. But one of the things he noticed was that when they widened this road to accommodate trucks, they widened these radii. They moved the stop sign back, and it's now out of the view of the approaching drivers on Lathrop. So what we suggested was, and also it's set so far back that if a driver actually stops here, they can't see past this fence to oncoming traffic southbound on Blackmore. So what we would recommend is paint a center line stripe, a yellow line out to a stop bar located out here. And this would give these eastbound drivers an indication of where they need to stop in order to see what's going on. So this is a very simple paint and signs solution to the problem that can be done very quickly and easily. And we've also shown the pedestrian way coming in on the south side of Lathrop, next to this detention pond, and a crosswalk over to the new Blackmore trailway. In this case, I showed a zebra crossing. It could be done with a zebra crossing or an unmarked crossing, depending on warrants. But you know, there is a need. There will be a need for pedestrian crossing at this location, perhaps with lighting as well. So maybe an overhead street light. So this is the short-term and long-term, or short-term and mid-term. In the long-term, the proposal is to extend this intersection across and connect it all out to, what's that road out at Hat 6? It's just a dirt road comes off of Hat 6. I'm trying to think of the name of it. I was just out there. Say again? Wildcat. That's the one. So this would maybe connect out to Wildcat Road way out this way. And all the stuff in between could be developed in some pattern. I would anticipate perhaps, you know, residential focus in the center area. I'm not really sure. You know, that would be up to the community to decide. The history in this area has been light industrial, so that might be what goes in out there. But one of the things that I would suggest here is that if the road is realigned, it raises a number of issues. One is you've got the potential for broadside collision. And as traffic increases with urban development, you're going to have more traffic, fewer gaps, and more people trying to guess a gap that isn't there. So I would recommend that reserving enough right-of-way to construct a roundabout at this location. If and when this road is designed and the right-of-way is purchased, make sure that there's enough space delineated to put a roundabout here. That way you won't get the broadside collisions. Second consideration, and this is probably equally important or more so, is that when this goes in, the design is going to have to include consideration of the floodway along Elkhorn Creek. You don't want to build a road that causes an increase in flood potential and damage to some property that wasn't in danger before. So that's another issue. Here's Blackmore at Yellowstone. Again, this is the no action alternative. Blackmore is 40 miles an hour and stop controlled at this location. Yellowstone Road is 55 miles an hour through here. Our safety engineer suggested dropping this because of the urbanization of the area from 55 to 40 through this intersection. You thought that that would be a good safety improvement. This is our minimalist alternative, the low-cost alternative. This is fairly simple. Update the signs and markings. Right now, there's a one-way sign right here, which is incorrect. It's left over from decades ago before they changed the configuration of this boulevard. There's no indication that there's any pedestrian facility, so we would recommend a pedestrian bike crossing sign here and here, so that drivers become aware that they should be looking for pedestrian. We would reinforce these signs and the markings out on the roadway. This one shows a dotted left turn line to indicate to this driver where he should be aiming for in his left turn. And the same would be true for the southbound driver. He's making a left turn, follows the dots. Truckers are sitting about 8 feet up in the air. That might not be a problem for them, but for drivers in low vehicles, they can't see the lanes on the opposite side. So we would suggest also that we put lighting on all 4 quadrants, street lighting, so that one, drivers coming in from the east realize they're entering an urban area. 2, drivers entering from the north and south can see the intersection configuration more easily, so they don't have to guess what's out there. One of the things that Dell suggested, and because we're looking at it, and as we're standing there, we're going, we don't want pedestrians out there. Let's just make sure the pedestrians never show up, right? Well, if they build a trail on Blackmore and we've got pedestrians using this non-motorized trail, and it's 1.5 miles to the nearest crossing, and you're a pedestrian, you find yourself out here and you're trying to get there, what do you do? And so I asked the safety engineer, say you're a pedestrian and you've got to get over there, what do you want? And he said, well, how about as an interim measure, down here in the 40-mile-an-hour zone to the west someplace, we put a median crossover, right? Maybe with a hawk signal, so that the hawk signal would be pedestrian actuated, it would flash and then turn all red, and the drivers would realize there's a pedestrian there, and the pedestrian would go out to the median, hit a second button, and cross the other way. That was the best solution that we could come up with this configuration. Now, if we change the configuration, and this is the one that the chief was talking about earlier, this probably shows it a little bit better. This does accommodate trucks. Now, say you're coming in from the west and you want to get to the refinery. You come in this way, you get out into the left turn lane, and you'd stop at the stop bar and stop sign here. When you get a gap in this direction, just complete your maneuver and pull in. So instead of doing it, trying to clear in both directions, you're only clearing one. Now, this guy has an even better situation, because instead of trying to clear traffic in this way, where you've got 3,000 vehicles a day, and in this direction where you've got another 3,000 vehicles a day, and they're all randomly dispersed, and you don't know when they're coming, and they're going at different speeds. Some of them are going 55, some of them are maybe going 60, 70 miles an hour, because, it's Wyoming. So, if you can break that decision into 2 decisions, you only need to get a gap in this direction and in this direction, and then you can make your turn.
It's going to be a nightmare in the winter time, and I'm a truck driver.
Well, it works. I mean, it would take getting used to, I'll admit. I mean, there's going to be folks out there who are not going to like it. But Michigan has hundreds and hundreds of these.
Different speeds and different weather. It's a whole different community.
Well, it's snowy there too. Yeah, I mean, they're building them in Arizona. They're putting them in other places, not just Michigan. But anyway, if you go ahead.
You're talking about splitting this into 2 different
Yeah.
Is there another alternative, because of how wide that is, where if you're going westbound, going to a medium lane, not going all the way across to the, and merging in?
Can you, I tell you what, if you hold that till, because I'm almost done. Hold that till after the show and you can draw it right here, right? Okay, so you got, again, this solves one problem, maybe it creates another problem. If it's unacceptable to truckers, we need to know. I do know that, this functions for very high volumes in a lot of locations that used to be rural divided highways and are now urban boulevards. And it happens all over suburban Detroit. It's happening in Tucson, different places around the country. But it's a solution. Now, if you did have a median here, then you'd have a place for a median refuge in concert with the pedestrian node that's proposed right here. And you've also got the Blackmore Trail coming in here, the Casper Rail Trail here, so you're going to generate pedestrians in this location. This would give them a median refuge so that you could have a hawk signal here and here and get them across. It could be located over here, it could be located down here, it could be located right here. This is just one concept. So anyway, this gives you a place to put a pedestrian crossing where you didn't have one before. So that's a solution. So that's it. That's as many different things as I could think of to skin this cat. First thing the planner always asks the engineers is, "Are you sure you want to skin that cat?" But then figure out, okay, if you're sure you want to skin it, what's the best way to skin it? And that's what I'm going to ask you folks right now. Of all these different things, what do you think's nuts? What do you think might work? What do you think we ought to do first? What should we do later? And I hope, did everybody get a survey form back in the back? Did everybody? We need your thoughts on this. Let us know if we're way off base or something makes a lot of sense to you. If you see this solves the problem, that solves the problem. Chad, you said you had a concept. Can you come up and show us?
Well, it's just kind of easy after the median.
Let me get you. There you
You got your roads.
So which intersection was this one?
2026 and Blackmore.
Okay, there's the way it is now.
One of your proposals was putting a median in here, in the middle.
Uh-huh.
Where if you took this and you just put the left-hand turn was going into a median lane.
I've got a solution for it. Hang on. This way we can understand. Go on.
No.
I want to go up.
Basically, instead of putting a median in here, if you're able to turn into a lane right here, so you're only crossing this traffic and then you're headed this way and then you merge into this, you're not taking into effect that one and this one at the same time.
Oh, I see.
You're making that two decisions.
So what you're saying is that this guy would turn into a lane here.
Correct.
And then
merge
he
into
would
it.
merge in like that.
So if your idea was taking two decisions, that's putting two decisions in there without putting a median that carry all the way around.
Okay. Well, there's a 40-foot median in there.
It's so wide, because this is all dead space in here right now, which is what you showed as a problem, is that people don't know where to turn.
Right. But right now, what YDOT has, this is hard to see, this is the left turn lane right here. So, that is the left turn lane. So the space that you're needing for that concept falls into YDOT's left turn lane, so you got to hit on it.
Well, when you get to the median, if the left turn lane's probably up in here, there's probably enough to look, or you can take that up from now.
Okay.
Just an idea that the median thing, I think, would.
Honestly, make a stoplight and some lighting would be fixed for that without having to rework the entire road. Slow speed down a little bit and have stoplight.
Okay, what else? What do you think?
Before we leave that intersection, I'm Jim Rubel with Sinclair. I don't know if it was part of your study or not. I don't think it was in the boundaries, but at our shift change times at the refinery, you've got as much southbound traffic as you do northbound traffic on Blackmore. You've got as many people coming out of the refinery as you do. And I'm not a traffic engineer or anything. I just wanted to make sure people were aware of that. It's not just a problem with Blackmore in 2026. You've got all this. If you're trying to get into the refinery at 7 a.m., there's 5 or 6, 7 cars lined up trying to get out. And the same thing around 3 or 4 p.m. So you're not only looking left and right, you're having to look straight ahead to see if that guy's going to take a left turn or what. So
Right, so you've got on it, now,
Yeah.
would that indirect system be a benefit for that?
I don't know. I guess like I said, I'm not a traffic person, but
I mean,
the only
'cause if
concern
you're
I
coming
have
out of
with
there,
that
all you could do was turn right.
at times we have a lot of traffic backed up coming from the west. My only concern would be is if it's bottlenecked at that stop sign there, you may have to make sure it wasn't a very important.
You mean right along in here?
Right, and I mean, you technically have the same thing now with people making a left turn, but you wouldn't want to create a problem where somebody be driving, all of a sudden there's a line of cars or something. It'd have to be designed right.
Stoplights with priority to certain times of the day for cross traffic and sensors for
Yeah. If you're hitting that at 9 a.m., I've never had a problem, but 7 or 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Do you guys run 3 shifts or 2?
We want to run 3, but the primary traffic, the other shift changes at 11 o'clock at night, so,
Okay.
yeah, 7 and
So
3
when
are
it,
the big ones. So.
7 a.m., 3 p.m., and then the other one's midnight, 11 p.m.? Okay, so 7 and 3 are the worst.
Yeah, and we have about 100 contractors that are going 7 to 3. And then the rest, then we've got 50 people that are going 7 to 3, and the rest are shift workers that are split between the 3 shifts. The majority of it's 7 to 3 kind of.
Okay.
Work out.
So say, at 3 p.m., which is probably the highest volume on the side road on 2026, how many come in and out of Sinclair?
Out. 7, you've got 150 at both times.
So 150 coming in, 150 going out. Okay.
Yeah, around those 2 times. Yeah, and I'm not. It's not fair for me to evaluate any of the solutions. I just wanted to make sure.
No, I mean,
when I saw the study, it kind of blocked that part out. I want to make sure you guys knew that there was a lot of traffic coming that way.
frankly, I'm glad you showed up because I did not know that. Right. So now we will take that into account in the design. Now, of those, my guess is that the majority of them turn right and head toward Casper, and that a smaller number turn east and head out toward Douglas.
Quite a few go straight across.
And some go straight across. Okay.
And the speed's a problem, I'd be in favor of any type of speed reduction because that always helps. And like you said, it's 55, but people are always going faster than that, it seems.
Yeah, I mean, my old boss at the DOT used to say, well, it's signed at 55 and I know what speed I drive on it. You know what speed you drive on. But yeah, that, obviously that is an issue that needs to be addressed, and I'm glad you brought it up. Please make sure you put that on your survey form.
I did.
Good. And if you have any other issues, by all means, let us know. I thought I had one more slide here. Yes, here it is. Please, if you think of anything later, or if you have ideas or questions or things that you wished you had said, let us know. This comes to me, and we will get it. We will erase that.
You can also do with us at the NPO. We're always available. Well, not always, most.
Anybody else? Come on, I must have annoyed someone.
Back in slide 39.
Slide 39. Okay, can you tell me what that is?
Lathrop Road coming off of.
This area?
Yeah, actually a little bit more to the east, but it kind of, there's a crown at the hill right at the right side of that.
Which way do you want me to go?
If you could actually go forward, 39 is where I first made the note, but you had more of a shot down through the Caspers.
Oh, wait a minute.
Like your proposed cross.
I've got something for you. Hold on just a
crosswalk
second.
areas.
Just show it. That white rectangle on the far northwest, that's the loaf and jug. The number 11's Murdoch's.
Yeah, this wintertime especially is, actually, if we could get a little bit.
You want further east?
Yeah. Actually, you had some slides with the crossing areas marked out in yellow that.
Oh, sure. Let me back up to that.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, just this hill right here, whenever there's snow and ice or weather events, that is the #1 place we hit for snow removal and ice treatment.
Mm-hmm.
And just with consideration of those crossing points, we do get trucks that pull up and they currently accelerate to that hill so they can make it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, the chief mentioned that same issue. He said trucks trying to get up that hill and
yeah, and
sometimes they don't quite get up
and the
it.
drive wheels,
Mm-hmm.
jack on them there. So if they've got impediments or stopping points that may be created by the pedestrian.
Well, no, not really. These
Okay,
these are off the road.
Yeah.
These could be up to 20 feet off the road in some locations.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw that in for consideration.
Sure.
That any type of a crosswalk from the hotel there
Mm-hmm.
going across toward the top of that hill.
Yeah. Oh, you mean, okay, now that you're talking about, come on in?
Yeah, come on in.
This is the top of the hill right here.
Yeah.
So over here is you're coming up the hill, and then this is kind of the top of the hill through here, and then there's the downslope on the east side.
Exactly, just and that's the crosswalk you mentioned was from the come on in, that was the
Yeah,
only place
and
across
we still
that
haven't
street.
figured out how to deal with that.
Yeah, just.
Now, as far as the trucks on the ice and snow, and the chief mentioned this,
Mhm.
and for the life of me, I'm not sure how to fix that. I just don't know.
Sure.
Other than bulldozing that hill out.
Yeah.
Maybe some kind of pavement that is more, has more friction, high friction pavement has been done in some locations.
Yeah, the
Brits are
road
big on
grade would
that.
be a huge expense and
Mhm.
consideration, but whatever is thought about for a crosswalk at that point, just consider that. You're gonna have the trucks that race up there in that foul weather.
Mhm. What do you think, chief?
Some more at the top.
Okay, so this is more visible right here. So rather than making people cross over here and then potentially cross here, it's probably best to just keep them on one side to here. And this is your downhill. This is the blind spot right here, so that's not really crossing. And this, having them shoot across this driveway, that's not a big deal. Put your lines in there, have your sidewalk. And then you have, because right here is Miracle, it goes over to Murdoch's.
Yeah.
And there's a sidewalk.
So where are you thinking, chief, for sidewalk crossing?
There's already a sidewalk here. Is it both sides or just one side? I think I think it's on this side here. So right there, put your crossing right there, and it's visible, because right here is that great big pull off that anytime I take petroleum off, I bottom out on the asphalt.
Yeah.
It's been weathered, so real open right here. That's your crossing.
Okay, yeah, we've,
Away from the slopes too.
I've got some photos of that, I just didn't think to put them in the presentation. All right, so consider a crosswalk at, what would you call that location?
Miracle.
Miracle.
Keeping the sidewalk on the south side from there all the way
Uh-huh.
to the Aspens.
Well, my guess is, I'm trying to think of what are the pedestrian movements. These folks are probably not headed to the Come On In very often, except maybe as workers at the place. This is a kind of low income area. So these people if they're walking, their destinations are probably the restaurant district.
This street right here, Craig Thomas,
Yeah.
there's a lot of trucks, semis that come in and out of here,
Mhm.
and a lot of people dart this.
Yeah.
This is less truck traffic going in and out of here, just 30-mile-an-hour road,
Yeah.
5-10 mile an hour average. So keeping that sidewalk all the way up to here is going to be safer than trying to cross or put them in there.
Yeah. Well, this location here, you've got pretty good site stopping distance on the westbound, or on the eastbound, and a lot of it on the westbound. When we were out there was very, very little traffic. Maybe in the peak hour it's different, but with 3,000 vehicles a day, actually this area only has about 1,000. You're looking at 100 in the peak hour, 60-40 split, about 1 car a minute. It's just really not much to contend with. But we will have a look at the site stopping distance here. Maybe a solution is to have a sidewalk on both sides through here. I don't know.
This, we just had this slot here just developed. So at some point in the future, more traffic in and out here, these are yet to be developed, so they're all commercial. So a lot of that's going to be future issues to consider.
Sure. Okay, so consider crosswalk at Miracle and sidewalk on South to Aspens. Okay, somebody else? Anybody? Slide 45, okay. Which one is that, Chief?
Curtis corridor, 3, single wide right there. You know, I don't particularly like roundabouts, but
Everybody hates them until they try them, and then they figure it out.
I drive all the time. I still hate it. So here, lining this up because of the truck traffic and how much volume is coming this way. Moving this up here and creating
A bypass?
like a bypass, merge in a sense here. I'm not the best artist, but so then as they come in, they can merge over. Because a lot of times the way this is, it's frustrating for people, especially at night when the ways of lit. But having something there, which then all you have is exit your traffic, and they're not having to worry about people turning in. Just, you saw how beat up this is with all the semis that come through here.
Yeah, I meant to mention that and forgot. Thanks for bringing it.
Same thing with that roundabout. Looking, and those semis are going to destroy that through there. And I think having something like this and a simple, this will slow the traffic, eliminate this right here. They really don't need to because there's enough traffic coming this way, or just have it moved out here with their parking lots.
Yeah.
So then you have
Well, see,
access.
I don't know if you can see the right-of-way line along there,
Yeah.
but that's basically where the right-of-way is.
So have their entry here, So then there's enough distance in here and just take this out.
Mhm.
But then you don't have all that. And then if you're doing people crossing, there's a good chunk, you know, you can probably route it through somewhere.
Mhm. But yeah, the chief mentioned this, and I meant to point it out. This sidewalk right here, you see that bald area right there? That's from the rear wheels of semis driving over the sidewalk.
Yeah, it's just
Right.
not wide enough.
This radius is too tight for the semis. I remember I showed you the slide with the semis trying to make their different turns. That's what's happening there. So we would need a location or a radius that would accommodate the trucks, turning left to go, or turning right to go down to the industrial area. I wanted to show folks a picture, and I'll have to see if I can do this. I'll have to get out of the slide presentation for a second and go on the internet. And hopefully this will work. Let's see.
While he's looking for that shade, we weren't able to have anybody from YDOT. I think YDOT's reaction to some of these changes. What? Unfortunately, we weren't able to have anybody from YDOT here today. What do you think about YDOT? Do you have any insight on how YDOT might feel about some of the changes proposed, specifically on Curtis?
You know, I really don't know. Why not? Doesn't like changes.
Right.
That's pretty typical. It's not just WIDOT, it's every DOT in the country.
Right.
You know, they're all do the same thing.
And of course, I mean, they're part of the MPO, so they'll have like access to these drafts and presentations. I was curious.
All right, this one started out where we are now. I want to take you someplace else. I used to work all over the country, and one place I worked was in Neenah, Wisconsin. And this is probably like nothing anybody here's ever seen before. Here's Neenah. It's between Oshkosh and Appleton, north of Fond du Lac. And this is Winneconne Avenue, which is a state highway coming off of US or of I-41, US 41. And we were tasked with solving the problems at this intersection. It was backed up, traffic couldn't get around, the congestion was terrible, the access to the neighboring parcels was so bad that it was becoming dilapidated. Some of them were just boarded up, and they wanted us to solve it. And so this is what we did. And I'm sure that nobody here has ever seen anything like this.
Is it on the screen?
I'm not sure how we get it up on the screen. How can we get it up there?
Well, I can break it just as good as everybody else.
Go ahead.
Which one was it?
Is that it?
Might take a second.
I'm not sure. None of them look like this.
No.
It's not working.
I see a.
Maybe if I
see a
close the
culvert on an
PowerPoint down.
interstate. I see some arrows.
Okay, now let's see if we can share that. There we go.
There we go.
Okay, this is, like I said, this is Neenah, Wisconsin. The traffic volumes are higher than anything you got. This is the first intersection off of a freeway, which is identical to the problem we have here, except this is a whole lot more traffic. And my task was to solve the traffic forecast and develop a design solution. And this is what came out of it. There's 4 high-capacity roundabouts, bigger than anything Wyoming's ever seen. The people who live there love it. The fire department loves it. They can turn around. They can turn the fire trucks around. The congestion is gone. If you look at it, this intersection carries as much traffic as the intersection of Wyoming Boulevard and 2nd Street, 2nd Avenue. It's enormous, absolutely enormous traffic volumes. But if you look at it, you don't see any traffic. You know why? Because it's gone. The traffic, during the off-peak hour, there's no opposing traffic, so off they go. So in a 2nd Street intersection, for example, you would see huge queues. At this intersection, there are no queues because during the off-peak, it's designed for the high capacity during the peak hour. In the off-peak, there's no traffic, there's no opposing traffic, so everybody's just gone. But if you call the traffic engineer for Neenah, Wisconsin, and ask him if folks there like it, they love it. One of the things that happened here is that shortly after this was built, 3 new big box developments moved in. This whole block here was dead commercial. It was very poor access. You couldn't get to it. Now you can get to it very easily from any direction. All right turns, no left turns in the system. But let's compare that to the 2nd Street intersection. I'm willing to bet that at that same time, the intersection of 2nd Street and Wyoming Boulevard had, if I can find Casper here. All right, where are the roads? Here's Casper at 2nd Street. All right, here they are. They're waiting at the light. Okay. How many people are actually in the intersection? Only 3. The others are just waiting. Okay. And the reason they're waiting is because there's only so many seconds in a minute, and they're all backed up waiting for the green. And there's so many different phases in here that they can't get through. At the other intersection, when the opposing flow lightens up, they just go. They never even have to stop. So it's got uses. Typically what happens, and I used to work for a roundabout design company, and I was the roundabout guy at Michigan for 15 years. So what happens is before the roundabout goes in, everybody's opposed. Everybody's like, yours is crazy, right? After it goes in, it's a flip-flop. It's 66% opposed before, 60%, 66% in favor afterwards, right? So this is something you don't do during an election year, right? You do it in an off year, right? And then, the elected official becomes a hero afterwards. Beforehand, he's a villain, right? But afterwards, he's a hero. So it's one of those things that's it's political, but it's not. It's just an intersection. It's a very safe one. But I'm well aware of the political issues associated. Does anybody else have anything else? Please, by all means, bring it up. We can look at any place you want to look at. Looking at, all right, where's the little man? This is an old version of this software. The new version has a little man. You can go down on the street and see what's down there. I'll see if I can.
I think he's under
Under this?
Yeah, he's under that. Yeah.
There he is. So where's the little man? All right. Here we go. So here's East Lathrop. Now where are we looking, Chief?
So that's out back. And right here this is where Miracle.
All right. Where's Miracle? There we go.
Your Miracle?
Oh, it hadn't been built yet when this picture was taken. Phooey. Maybe we'll see it if we zoom down in. Okay, yeah, there's your gravel area. And there's Miracle Street.
Yeah, so there's sidewalks on both sides.
So what you're thinking is sidewalks on both sides here?
So you have the sidewalk here, so instead of pushing them over and coming up, because this is kind of narrow and deep,
Mm-hmm.
more wide, just have the sidewalk follow up, limit the traffic other than peak hour. If it's slower, sidewalk coming up over here,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah. Well, my only concern here was that the vehicle coming westbound may not see the pedestrian. Now, if we put street lights at this location and maybe a push-button flashers, maybe that's a solution.
then when they're there, they can push it,
Mhm.
flash, the rest of the time it's off.
Mhm. Well, let's look, you were mentioning the other intersection location, and I don't know what this looks like. Here's Craig Thomas. And we can look at the sight distance here. So here you can see trucks about a half mile down. Very light volumes on the other road. And then this is looking the other way. So you've got quite a bit of sight stopping distance here. And that's why the traffic engineers preferred this location. On the other hand, if we got pedestrians crossing where there isn't any facility, that's not a good situation either. So maybe we need crossings in both.
One of the things that engineers always, it's just like when they design cars nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
They go through and they go these great educations, but
Mm-hmm.
everybody that's going to be living down here and traversing back and forth, they don't think like an engineer.
Mm-hmm.
They're not thinking, oh, we should cross here. So they're going to say, oh, we'll stay on this side because we're going to cross. Maybe they're not going to the
Sure.
gas station, whatever.
Yeah.
And
Well, what we found from the field review is there's just nothing along here on the south side of Lathrop of any real interest until you get to here. And then you've got the come on in, of course.
Aren't you gonna see a lot of foot traffic come on in over to the restaurant?
Yeah, and I agree with that absolutely. Maybe some kind of crossing in this location makes sense. You've got enough space here, maybe you could put some kind of traffic calming device, overhead, a median, refuge. I don't know, but that's definitely something we need to look at is what about a crosswalk at Miracle? Again, coming up the hill, look in the opposite direction. There's Miracle. So do we have good sight stopping distance? So here's your crosswalk out here. Coming up the hill. There's not a lot else to look at, so maybe they would be looking at the location. But I think some kind of device to draw attention to a pedestrian crossing makes sense. I'll mention that to our traffic engineers, see what they suggest.
While we're talking about crosswalks, you haven't mentioned a crosswalk on the Great Towns Boulevard at the rail trail.
Craig Thomas Boulevard at the rail trail is right here. Okay, so you've got sidewalks there. Let me see if I can put the little man down there. Nope, they haven't videoed that section. But what are you thinking there? this is not really part of our study area, but, you know, we can talk about it. What are you
In
thinking?
the area, isn't
Huh?
it? It's within the area.
Well, yeah, well, that's what I'm saying, we can talk about it.
The standard crosswalk, I think, would be sufficient.
Okay,
Just to get the trail across,
There's people that run and jog.
yeah.
We've got two different groups that do like a kind of group charity thing once in a while. The last and walk off.
yeah,
This is probably a good time to point out that I think next year we have scheduled for Evansville a trail interconnectivity study.
be a useful thing.
Well, they're like Evansville's sort of marooned from this larger Casper trail system,
Yeah.
so we definitely will.
Well, one of the things I should mention is that the American Association of State Highways and Transportation Officials has warrants for crosswalks of various types, right? So you have to have a certain volume of traffic and a certain number of pedestrians to warrant this type of crosswalk and a certain number for this type, and Whiteout has the same kinds of things. One of the reasons is that engineers have a license. The last thing they want to do is lose their license. If somebody sues them for not following the rules, then they can lose their license. So they're very averse to doing that. So not following the AASHTO guidance, not following the Whiteout guidance is something that they're really loath to do. You know? So at this location, my guess is that it wouldn't meet the warrants for volumes for a pedestrian crossing. But there's no reason you couldn't put some signs here indicating that the pedestrian crossing is at this location, or pedestrians are here, or trail crossing, something of that sort. And there is a trail, and it is crossing, so putting a trail crossing sign makes perfect sense. That would at least inform drivers that they need to be on the lookout at this spot. So maybe that's the solution that the engineers would be comfortable with, and not losing their license. Just a sign indicating trail crossing. And that's what we've suggested out at Blackmore Road for the same reason, is that a marked crosswalk has a certain volume warrants that have to be met in order to make it viable as far as the engineers are concerned. They won't stamp it unless it meets the rules. That's the difference between planners such as myself and engineers, right? Planners are taught to think out of the box, right? You know, we don't even know where the box is. Engineers are trained to think, they're taught, this is the box. You know, you stay in the box. This is how you do it. So, two different ways of looking at the same problem.
Shane, if you and Ed need to fight later, I can
No, it's two different ways of looking at that. And it's the same with landscape architects. They have a different set of eyes. And you know, bringing Pat in was great because she saw things that I didn't see and Gary didn't see, but they were right there, obvious to her. And you know, I did not think about pedestrian waypoints, but when you think about it, a mile and a half is a long walk. It's nice to have someplace to rest along the way or enjoy the view or whatever. And it just didn't occur to either of us. But that's the value of having different sets of eyes look at the same problem. You know, somewhere out there is the solution, or as they used to say, the truth is out there.
Question that I had with this stretch in here, are there many kids from the Aspens that walk or ride their bikes to school?
We don't really have any way to know that. As far as kids from the Aspens walking and riding to school, I would say probably not, simply because of the distance.
Not at the present bus stops. No. There's things in motion that may change the future as far as until they actually sign on paperwork. So there's a chance that the entire Aspens may get reworked and two or more trailers come in and hold the
They've been hauling out old trailers.
So at present, with the current population, no. But this isn't just about here and now, we need to look at the future, and there's good chances. Because at the peak of the Aspens, there's 199 trailers, so there's very 54 people, kids, and stuff like that.
I could see foot traffic going up on the rail trail if kids and families from the Aspens, I go to the older part of Evansville, go to the rail trail, down to Curtis, and then cross at Curtis to get into the older part of Evansville. If what I'm told happens, that will come, but until they actually sign the dotted line, there's such things.
One of the,
Right now, going from this side across the old side of Evansville, is taking Blackboard in, you know, try to cross the street.
where's this?
Right up here at Curtis in 2026. And you've got road,
Oh, here?
yeah, it's,
Yeah, the main highway right there.
it's a very difficult crossing.
Yeah, it is a long way across, and it's the only way across.
And
For
beyond
miles.
just the complications of this, there's this, and
And
I call them walkers, but we get, anytime at night you're walking around, daytime, there's all sorts of transit people, and there's just, they walk,
Mhm.
and they don't care, they just walk.
Yeah.
in front of
When I,
people.
when I got here earlier today, I think, where are we now? We're right here, aren't we?
Iron Street.
Right here?
Street. Yeah, we're right there.
Well, when I got here, I was setting up earlier. There was a homeless guy sitting outside the door there singing, you know, taking his shoes off, airing out his socks.
And just west end of railroad tracks outside of Evansville's municipal limits, there's a guy living right along the railroad tracks, Casper, deals with railroad men, but that's where he lives, and he's right outside the tracks, living in a tent.
Well, one thing that I was told about here, and, you know, it never occurred to me, but see this mobile home park? There is no way, you know, if you don't have a car, there's no way to go anywhere from there. You're miles from other destinations. And what has happened, and the guy at YDOT mentioned this, is somebody cut a hole in the YDOT fence so that they could go from here to the commercial area without having to walk miles out of the way. And in my business, they call that suppressed transportation demand. So what that means is these people want to go somewhere and they can't, and they're so desperate, they're willing to run across the interstate to do it.
I feel obligated to point out now that we do have a transit system.
Yeah.
That stops at the Aspens, but yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's,
Some of it's just people that are, it's just their mindset. It isn't about necessarily always going far, it's the fact that we don't care about fences, we don't care about highways.
Mhm.
We're gonna jump the fence, run the
Sure.
wall, steal what we want, and take it home.
well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what goes through people's mind. My mom used to say, there but for the grace of God go I, you know?
We've had, since I talked to you, I think we've had 3 incidents where we helped Casper chasing people who ran from them in Walmart, all came
Yeah.
back to the Aspens, we're trying to get back there. Just-
Well, you know, and that's one of the reasons I'm looking at this thing, this sidewalk from the standpoint of, can we improve the quality of life in that location? You know, simply providing a sidewalk that gets them off the road, off the interstate for crying out loud, and lets them go someplace safely and, you know, enjoyably, you know, maybe that'll make just a little bit of difference, you know?
We would build a wall that they can't cut through, that actually forces the hand.
Well, you have to get with YDOT. YDOT's gonna say, who's paying for this? That's gonna be the first thing out of their mouth. I could predict that. I'll put $5 on it.
The first time somebody gets smoked up there, then white out.
Yeah, I know, I hear what you're saying.
At 6 in Yellowstone Highway, when it wasn't, they were saying we need light, it wasn't until they had fatality, and then 70 months later, we have a light.
Yeah,
Why
that's,
should it take somebody getting killed, and white out to take notice?
well, one of the things that, you know, Federal Highways has tried to do with these safety audits, and, you know, I thank you for participating in that, is to be proactive. You know, historically, they get the crash records every year and they look at them, they go, oh, there's been a fatality here, let's look at that. So they all focus in on that spot, right? It may or may not be the most dangerous spot. It might have just been a random incident, but it draws attention. Whereas the system that the safety audit uses is we go out there and we don't look at the crashes yet. look at what we're seeing, or what would we expect to go wrong, you know? And that was, you know, I used to fly KC-135s in the Air Force, you know, 100,000 pounds of kerosene going 600 miles an hour. The plane's older than I am, you know. My last question before we took off was, what could possibly go wrong, you know? And you know, that's how I look at everything here, you know, what can possibly go wrong. And the safety audit is a great new treatment. I wish we could say the U.S. invented it. It was actually invented by the Brits, but they came up with a lot of good ideas, like radar. But the idea is to go out there, you know, with experts, look at it and think, what kind of conflicts are here? What crashes are potentially going to happen? Don't wait for them to happen, but and try and anticipate it ahead of time. And that's, you know, just like you were saying, Chief, you know, don't wait until it happens, deal with it ahead of time. You know? So anyway, that's what we're trying to do here. Like I said, you know, there's no solution that's perfect. I do like the idea of a roundabout because it lines up the side roads. It handles the left turn conflicts. It creates pedestrian refuges. It gets rid of the left turns. It provides places to put a median so that you can have a pedestrian refuge and eliminate those crossing conflicts on the side road driveways. It just does a lot of things that you can't do with anything else. You know, and a big part of that is the U-turn capability. When you've got a place to turn around, you can eliminate left turns and just use right turns and U-turns to turn left. So that's an advantage to that.
You mentioned refuge for pedestrians. Going back to the Curtis Street situation in 2026, the area between Service Road and 2026 is just dirt and mud. So
Right in here?
The pedestrians aren't receiving any clues as to where they belong and how they should
Right.
cross.
Right.
A lot of times there's sagebrush, you know, they're standing in sagebrush.
Yeah.
And I brought up why doing something with sagebrush because it's tall enough now it's actually a safety issue. And well, anyways, the sagebrush still there.
Where's this, Chief? We're at?
Right at this intersection. So can you zoom out just a hair? Okay, so all through here there's sagebrush, and some of that stuff's probably this tall, so low-profile vehicles. And as you come up Curtis, some gas station here. It's like when you come up Curtis, there's a slight incline, so you're lower than the highway when you come up, and you've got all that stuff blocking your vision. I mean, if you're in a pickup, you can see. You know, we're probably 50-50-ish right now.
Yeah.
And plus, like these guys here, when you're coming up, you just don't have a line of sight through here. And like the fence, it looks like crap, and I've talked to them about like, hey, can we do something to make our community look better? And, you know, anyways, state politicians and bureaucrats, and you never get anywhere with them because they don't care if the community looks like crap. And I'm like, well, let's clean it up and eliminate the safety factors, get a fence that's more applicable, or just take it out. And they're like, well, take the fence out, people are going to drive through there. I'm like, well, there's ways of fixing it.
So you're saying cut sagebrush between 2026.
Right here, there's a signpost.
And
I see people hugging that signpost here, trying to wait to get across.
Trying to get across that,
Yeah.
wow,
You sit here,
And
that little
it's
section.
flat.
Yeah,
that's a long way across too.
Yeah, and then, of course, there's always people coming here, and this is probably more congestion from this side, because they come in and sometimes there's no laneage, so half the people who go down here, they don't care if there's lane anyway, so they're in the middle of it, so people are almost treating each other, and occasionally you get the walkers, and because it's not real well lit in here, and if they're wearing dark clothing, I can't tell you how many times I've
Well, to be honest, Chief, we haven't even looked at this because this is not inside our study area. Our study area starts right here.
Yeah, as a motorcycle rider, it's super dangerous right there.
Well, that's why people won't cross the
Yeah.
railroad trail.
Well, you know, there's probably 50 different ways of skinning this cat too. We haven't looked at any of them because it's outside of the study area. But, you know, I understand the issues.
There's a lot of pedestrians. My dad, when he worked at Loken's, he would get all that drunk traffic from Taylor's, and they would cross that road all the time.
Here we have so when you zoom out, so down over here, you got Copper Street, and there's a couple other trailer parks and some folks, so like, so Copper, there's quite a few folks through here. They don't actually drive because, well, they're not entitled to have a driver's license and, or they can't afford a car down here. So there's a whole big funneling. They come up here, and they shoot up here, and then over on, so you got Oklahoma and then Evans Street. And they all tend to cycle right up here because the laundromat. See,
So is this whole area a low-income district?
yeah, so, you know, typical, so they all come up here because most of them, if they don't have laundry facilities, and then, so they either hang out here and they either do their laundry and do their drugs, or they come over here because that's what they eat for their 3 squares a day, or their alcohol. And then beyond that, they need to go up to Walmart, whatever, so it funnels them right into this, which then collides with all of that.
And that's the only way to get underneath
And
I-25.
there's almost people under here. If you climb up here and you go underneath, there's pieces of cardboard. We have a couple frequent flyers that live up underneath there.
Right. I did, I did not realize how to use this version of Google Earth. I'd like to show you, I know, Mayor, you were wanting an entry feature for the community, what do they call it? Gateway. I want to show you a gateway. I neglected to mention earlier. This again is Neenah, Wisconsin. All right, where'd I put Neenah? Here it is.
While he's looking at that, Mr. Mayor, you've seen our wayfinding plan, right? Okay.
That was a big part of the discussion was.
Yeah, it just came up when this was coming in here. I mentioned that we find plan is ideas.
Here you go, Mayor. This doesn't look very good on the screen, but this is the entry point for Neenah, Wisconsin now. They just love it. I mean, ask anybody on the street, ask anybody in town, ask the traffic engineer. They just love this thing. I'll show you some different ones here. They all have crosswalks on them. They're all very safe. Yeah, this is one of my proudest projects right here, working on this. It's very tidy, very clean, very pretty. It's a very pleasant environment. Like I said, you've got all this new commercial development. When the traffic cleared out and the access became easy, all these big box developers showed up. All this is brand new. That's what they wanted us to accomplish, is to get their town to develop. And that's exactly what happened. Here's another one. So that's what it looks like. Very pretty. All ADA compliant, very low speed. Everything's 20 miles an hour. And it's just, so anyway, that's what I wanted to show you. That's the gateway treatment that they have there. And that's essentially what you could do in Evansville. If I can find Evansville again. Where am I here? It's the Black Hills. It looks like Casper. Yeah, we're home.
Mr. Mayor, does anyone else have any questions?
Any more ideas? By all means, let me know. If there's something we haven't turned over, some leaf we haven't looked under, any ideas we haven't thought of yet. There's been some great stuff so far, but if there's anything, any other concerns, any issues that we haven't thought of, any safety concerns about this corridor. My objective as an urban planner, and I'm getting old, getting toward retirement, I really want to create a nice built environment that people will enjoy and be safe and meet the needs of the community. This will be one of my last projects before I go spend time with the family, as they say. But again, I think maybe a mixture of these different treatments is the best solution. Consolidating a couple of driveways here, eliminating left turn conflicts here, closing a driveway here, rearranging the access by running a median here, and then people would enter off of Curtis and exit onto Lathrop, right? So you create a one-way flow here and a circular flow here that eliminates the left turn conflicts. Provision of pedestrian facilities along Lathrop with crossings at key locations, maybe here at the top of the hill and another one down at the bottom of the hill.
So Ed,
Yeah, Mayor?
down at Lathrop and Curtis,
Lathrop and
kind of
Curtis.
an out of the box
Okay,
idea, but zoom out a little bit. What would possibility of somewhere in here being able to take a left to catch on the off ramp, widen this out and making it a right turn?
well, I can tell you what YDOT's going to say right now. They're going to throw their hands up in the air and pull their hair out and scream like they've been stuck with a knife. They will not let you tie into that off ramp. They just won't. I don't know if it's a good idea or a bad idea, but I know what YDOT's going to do.
What were you gonna say, Renee?
Merging the two. I've seen that in Denver a lot, where they
Yeah.
have people coming off and then one of the front roads.
Yeah, it was like
merge,
merge.
becomes like this
Yeah.
giant 5-lane thing where you can go wherever you want to go.
Well, one thing that Chad Agard told us, and I was not aware of this, is that you see where my cursor is here? Maybe it'd be better with the, he said that what he's had happen is people turn onto here thinking they're headed over here,
Yeah.
and they wind up in the, they're headed the wrong way on I-25.
I've seen
And I don't know if maybe their GPS is saying, turn right, and they
Well,
just
yeah,
blindly turn right in
because
here when they're
this
trying to get here.
intersection and this, it's so dark through here
Mhm.
and it's not well designed.
Yeah,
That when you're coming through here, and especially if you're not familiar or you're new to the area,
sure,
all the time, and I can,
yeah,
2 or 3 times since I've been here, I've dealt with people doing that.
sure,
And that's why earlier I was talking about coming in, so at some point here, come in, and have just a nice gradual
Sure.
around, of course, I don't draw it best.
yeah, this radius needs to be fixed so that you don't have that problem in
Right,
there.
and then just having that lane, and if there's a light in here, that slows the traffic.
And isn't that, so, they're.
Well, this is your out, and this is your in.
I'm sorry, I
Oh, yeah, so from here you could have
Just
2
wait a
lanes.
minute.
I see what you're saying, so this would be left and right, and then here's your in, and then this, you could almost put in a median type structure here to separate this.
Mhm. Yeah, I think a median along there is a great idea. A median through here, just to make that more obvious. I would emphasize the one-way at this location. I would put one-ways here. I would put them overhead.
Right.
And also, now here's another thing, Chief, and I know you don't like roundabouts, but I wanted to mention this.
I
Now-
actually moved here because they don't have them. Well, not completely, but.
They're,
this
they're,
part
they're,
of it.
they're cropping up everywhere,
I
It's-
know.
But here's what I was gonna say. You've got a GPS, right? And you're looking for, say, the Baymont Motel, thank you. Now you're coming along here and the existing configuration, it says, the next intersection, turn right. So people turn right here looking for the Baymont, right? And wind up on, head on Toledo. Whereas if this was a roundabout, the GPS would say, turn right at the roundabout, first exit, right? So instead of going here, they go, there's no roundabout here, they would do here. Right? What they're doing in Michigan and Wisconsin and Utah and Arizona and California, all these places, is they're putting roundabouts at the off ramps, right?
Colorado has them.
Yeah, there's a lot of them, Avon Road. But the reason for that is that at a freeway, you've got random traffic processing, right? On a signalized corridor, you've got what's called platoon processing, pulse processing, right? On a freeway, you've got random arrivals. So if you have a random processor, which is a roundabout, it processes random arrivals more efficiently, and it doesn't send platoons onto the interstate, which disrupts the traffic flow. It filters it on.
To roundabout, have your lane, and roundabout with the idea of course, you can't go left, but you can at least come this way.
Well, let's have a look. Let's go to Avon, Colorado.
And just so you know, we really don't like Colorado people.
I know, that rectangle just bugs me. My rectangle is so much better.
And I'm not really a big fan of Utah people. Right.
All right, where am I here?
They are.
I was just about to make that guess.
Let's see, Avon, Colorado.
So I used to, like, when I was on the other side of the state, all over the place on there. Hated the roundabouts. And I don't know what it is about them, but they're just pretty irritating.
Well, I used to work for Ourston Roundabout Engineering, right? We were the best. We worked with the best designers. We were taught by the best designer. And it's always, always, always the design. If you get a bad designer designing a roundabout, and it's the wrong kind, you're not going to like it.
I agree.
And some of them,
But now here's a corridor. Now, this used to be your typical 5-lane Kmart corridor, right? Like Dell Range Boulevard. This is what this was, all right? And it's been entirely transformed. This was done in 1995 by a friend of mine. And this is Avon Road. And as you say, you could put a roundabout here, you can put a roundabout there, you can put a roundabout there. Yeah, and they like this so much that they have built dozens of these all over the place, all through their network. The people just love it. And the difference here is these were designed right from the get-go. You don't want somebody designing who doesn't know what they're doing.
I know that some of them, if we know our community, we drive through here all the time.
Sure.
We can do it in our eyes closed, but you go somewhere different. So because Casper, Evansville, we're one of those areas that draws people in to the events or the energy industry and whatever's going on. And so when I go to my property up in Montana, Bozeman has a couple roundabouts. The first time I came across them, I thought it was back in Utah because they build the centers up so high, because obviously they don't want people driving over and stuff. But when you're new to an area and you get your GPS annoying the hell out of you, you got your family yelling at you, and I need to pee and I need my cigarette break, whatever's going on in that car, and you're trying to figure out where you're going. They're so high in the middle, they become a distraction, like over signage.
Sure.
And you're trying to find where you're going, and sometimes the place you need to go is this direction, and you're,
well, I'll tell you what, try it in England. Right? I did it, right? You can do it. I mean, you drive on the left. But here's the trick. Here's the trick. Everybody says, well, I'm kind of timid about roundabouts, so I'm going to stay way over on the right, right? Well, the only thing you can do in the right lane is turn right. If you don't know where you're going, get in the left lane. You can go around that circle as long as you want. Nobody will notice, right? And keep going around until you find, oh, that's the exit I want. Out you go. Right? But that's the trick to it,
I see the value of roundabouts.
It's the safety. It's the safety more than anything.
One thing about them versus the higher populations, they have a different mindset than roads. Wyoming,
Sure.
Just like typical on the communities, they always want to hire some goofball from some other state to be a chief of police. They come in and a year later they fire them because they don't like their ideas. They don't mesh with how we view things. In
Sure, you know, but on the other hand, a highway fatality is the same in Detroit as it is in Miami, as it is in Casper, in Mills, you know, anywhere in Natrona. It's the same. It's a terrible tragedy. And anytime you design an intersection like that, and fire vehicles in it 45, 55 miles an hour, and hope nobody makes a mistake, because if they do, the consequences are devastating. And that's what got me. And that's what's selling federal highways. I mean, federal highways has launched roundabouts as one of their proven safety countermeasures. Typically the statistics show that when you convert a signalized crossroad intersection to a roundabout, you get a 40% reduction in crashes, a 75% reduction in injuries, because all those severe crossing movements that I showed you are gone, right? It's all merge and diverge. And you get a 90 to 100% reduction in fatalities. Now flip that around. If you would take a roundabout and convert it to a signal, you would get 10 times as many fatalities, 4 times as many injuries, and 2.5 times as many crashes. You know, and that's borne out by the data. You saw the map. You saw what the intersection of the westbound off ramps at Curtis Street looked like. You know, that's a crossroad, and that's only one direction. I shudder to think what the intersection of Second and Wyoming Boulevard looks like. Just the crashes in 5 years would be difficult to diagram.
As a person who used to do public safety analysis for that.
Are they?
That one in Poplar and Sea Line.
What would you say is the worst location in the metro area?
Second Wyoming or, I mean, the issue is you tend to get.
Or CY.
Right. The issue is you tend to get like weird spikes around through high school, but if you factor out 16-year-olds, it's gotta be, yeah, CYM. Wyoming second or CYM.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a couple of years since I did that.
Well, weather here can play, especially winter time, the weather is.
Sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, there's no perfect solution to anything, but I can tell you that I have never seen a community have a ribbon cutting for a new traffic light. Never. Right? For a roundabout, yeah, the whole community comes out there, you know, because you see what they look like. They're beautiful, you know. They can look great. The traffic's going 20 miles an hour. Any crashes that do happen are low-speed fender benders. You're not going to get severe fatalities. And I know in your line of work, that's the last thing you want to deal with is somebody who's bleeding profusely or worse. And, you know, thank you for dealing with that, because I couldn't. I could not do that job, you know.
You're saying is what I dealt with last night, you didn't want to deal with.
No. You know, and where did it happen last night? What happened last night? Yeah, but that's the thing. You know, I mean, we have created, you know, what's the old saying? You know, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and thinking it's going to make things different, right? Well, if we keep building signalized crossroads over and over and over and over, we're going to keep getting 40,000 fatalities a year. You know, the Brits, and they use roundabouts at all the major intersections, right? Have 26% fewer fatalities and injuries per mile of travel than we do. If you were to translate that to the U.S. to the data, it would be 10,000 fatalities a year. It didn't happen. And that's.
Are you ready for a roundabout?
Well, you know, that would be my recommendation. I know that folks are going to, you know, throw their hands up and go, "Oh, this has got to be nuts," you know.
I'll say that like part of our plan is to develop like the plan will have like a suite of options.
Sure.
Like low to high cost, you know. I think, and I might be wrong, Ed, it's 4 plus a do nothing option. And we just want to provide like,
Sure.
options to the community and just really in the effort of making the transportation network in Evansville as safe and efficient as
Yeah.
possible. And it's balancing those that's the challenge.
Sure. Well, I've done a lot of alternative analyses for different intersection types. That's what I did at the DOT. And having run these things repeatedly, you look at the cost of delay, you look at the cost of crashes, the cost of injuries, the cost of fatalities, for different types of intersections. I know how the thing's going to stack up before it even gets done. I can run the numbers and I know exactly what they're going to say. When you look at the National Safety Council costs for various types of crashes, the fatality is in the millions. Just one fatality costs millions of dollars. Injuries are in the $80,000 to $100,000 range now, just one injury. And that would pay for a lot of road work, a lot of sidewalks, a lot of things that would prevent it from happening in the first place. So that would be my preference for expenditures. But
Mr. Mayor, did you have something to wrap up with?
No, I was just going to say, one of the other things in the recommendations, like with the sidewalks and whatnot, I don't know if there's a ranking system.
Mhm.
What's
Well,
more important than others, as like a.
Sure.
The cost value.
Well, it depends. It depends on what you're trying to accomplish. Now, every community has a lot of different objectives. For example, you've got a safety objective. You've got a child safety objective. You've got a community development objective. You want businesses to move in and generate tax revenue for the town. You want housing to get improved. You want all these nice things to happen. You want pedestrian improvements. Safety for access for trucks and all these different reasonable and prudent objectives. And each alternative is going to stack out differently depending on what it is you're trying to accomplish. So yeah, as far as being objective, we can do that, but each objective is going to have a completely different
what I'm
set of
saying
responses.
is like, say, putting the sidewalks in on Lathrop Road.
Mhm.
Sidewalks are important. As we choose money, do we say we just start on the western side and we do this chunk with the amount of money we've got, and then we just do the next chunk in order as we go along?
What do you mean, like a hierarchy of?
Yeah, are there
Yeah.
areas that, hey, it's.
Well, what I would say to that is that you want to have logical termini for whatever segment you come up with. Like you wouldn't want to just build 100 feet of sidewalk and say, well, that's all the money we got. Well, 100 feet of sidewalk's not going to accomplish anything. It needs to connect something to something else, right? So as far as something to connect to, I would say the Aspens is a major pedestrian generator. The hotels are major pedestrian generators. I would not leave the Aspens out, all right?
Right.
Just from the standpoint of you probably got more pedestrians generated there than anywhere else.
And I think that something like a preferable option or alternative is something we can look at in a finalized report.
Sure. Yeah, well, that's one thing we need to figure out is how are we going to do that? And we're going to have to rely on the community decision makers to look at the alternatives and make a rational choice as to what you think would be the best solution. Right now, your worst safety problem is at Lathrop and Curtis.
In the beginning, you started with the number of crashes.
I think there were 15 in 5 years, something like that. There was one injury. The worst intersection in the whole bunch is I-25 at Curtis. But that one's outside our study area.
Yeah, that's outside of our control.
Yeah, that's all YDOT. YDOT has to deal with
It's
that.
not even in the county.
Yeah. If I was dictator of YDOT, I would say put a roundabout there and get rid of all these injuries, right? But that's not my job.
Why not do that? And I'm sure the rest of us.
Well, the thing about it is, YDOT has built some. We've got 2 roundabout interchanges in the Cheyenne area, both of them functioning very well. Ask the neighbors to compare what it was like before and after. They'll tell you. It's a dream. Ask Lou Harmon, the utility engineer I was talking about, the guy who does the animal sewers. They're great. Oh, there's a 5-leg down there. Yeah, I know the guy who designed it. His name was, well, it's been 10 years now. Pancratz, Troy Pancratz designed that. He was the geometric designer, and they turned it over to Ayers Engineering, who had never seen a roundabout in their lives. And they did the striping and marking because they assumed they knew how. You know, never assumed. But the issue there was that it should have been 2 roundabouts, right? A 4-leg and a 3-leg. Instead, the designers were told you need to put all 5 legs into one circle. When you do that, the circle has to be bigger because you got more legs on it. You got room for all the legs. So when you make the circle bigger, the speed goes up. When you have all the legs, the circulating traffic volume goes up, which means you got to have more lanes entering, which, you know, is ramifications. It's like taking the engine of a car, turning it sideways and driving the front wheels. There's ramifications all through the vehicle, right? Lowers it down, changes the center of gravity, everything, right? Eliminates eliminates a lot of weight. But in the case of a 5-leg roundabout, the more legs you put on a roundabout, the more complex the whole thing becomes. And previously, it was the most complicated intersection in Wyoming. They came in there, put in a 5-leg roundabout, and it's still the most complicated intersection in Wyoming. It would have been better as 2 roundabouts instead of 1. But, you know, it wasn't my decision. But yeah, when they're designed right, when they're thought through well ahead of time, they can be a real asset to a community. But they have to be done well. What I'm thinking of as the solution that I would recommend would be a combination of a roundabout, a median, and driveway consolidations in that whole area, right? The roundabout would enable the U-turns and the access maneuvers. The medians would prevent the left turn crossing conflicts and the crash potential, and the injury potential. And the driveway consolidation would create a more rational traffic flow pattern, you know, in off of Curtis out onto Lathrop, you know, instead of just randomly back and forth trying to find the best way in. The trickiest problem is right here. Right at where was I going with this? My mind's getting muddled. It'll come to me when I don't need it anymore. It's not working like it used to. But yeah, this problem along here is kind of tricky. Now, one of the things about, if you were to use a roundabout here, it gives you a whole lot of leeway on the alignment. So you're talking about this radius here. We could move this road all the way over and arc it back to the right, and that would create that radius that you need in order to make that turn. And then it wouldn't have trucks running over the sidewalks. Bring it back here. Now that's 150-foot diameter. We could actually make it a little bit larger, but this road could be realigned to the east. So this would just come along here, and this would come over to the east and then arc back to the right. So that gives you what's called your entry path deflection. And that would cause the traffic to slow before it reaches the circle. And then this could be along this side, this could be arced way over and then brought back. So you've got that big wide radius for the semi. So you don't wind up with it crossing over the sidewalks. And the sidewalks are set back 1 car length from the yield line. You know why that is? I don't know why we never thought of this. When the driver pulls up here, he's looking to the left, right? if there's a crosswalk in front of him and this driver's looking to the left for a gap and somebody comes in from his right, they're gonna get run over. The car's in drive though. If you put the crosswalk behind him, you can't possibly get run over by that guy, right? Duh, why didn't we think of that? These are all things, I've been looking at these things for 20 years now, and you know, just amazing, you know, the number of solutions that this creates. But by putting this in, we can put a median here, right? And then down here, you could have one of those Colorado U-turns, and then they could come back here, and that means that these people could turn right, and then come back here and go on their way, get onto the interstate. You could continue the median all the way down to the I-25 westbound ramp. You put a one-way sign on the end of that. You've also got a nice place to put a pedestrian refuge in the middle of that crosswalk, right? So as the pedestrian's crossing here, if he gets out in the middle and he gets stuck or he sees a truck coming and he goes, well, what am I going to do now? He's got a place to wait. You know, you could put a median crosswalk here, or median crossing here with plenty of space for a bicyclist or a wheelchair user that would cut the crossing time in half. Because right now you've got about 78 feet, 3.5 feet per second. What does that come out to? 22 seconds, 22 seconds, all right? If you have a median refuge there, that cuts that exposure time down to about 10 seconds or less, right? That's a lot easier to judge a gap. If you see vehicles coming and you've got go over right over there and you know you can get there in 10 seconds, you're good to go. You know, 22 seconds is a lot longer time to guess. So a nice pedestrian refuge here would be nice. So you'd start the median here, run it over to the right, and then curve it back to run it over to the left, curve it back to the right. So you got your entry path deflection that forces the vehicles to slow down before they reach the roundabout. They enter the roundabout at about 20 miles an hour. The only people they would have to yield to would be people coming and turning left onto Lathrop. And that's a fairly low volume. So you'd have very little impedance to the traffic flowing north along here. Same thing southbound. They would have to yield to anybody exiting onto Lucre or anybody turning left from Lathrop to southbound Curtis, right? So that would be the only impedance they would have, and that would happen at random intervals. So it wouldn't have to be coordinated with the signal system. It could just operate randomly independently. So it's a really efficient system. This driveway would have to go right here. It's just too close to the exit. You want a driveway about 100 feet from an exit, and that makes this driveway better. But by doing that, you've got to right in here through the gas station, hit the store, and then back out onto Lathrop, and then back out in whatever direction you needed to go. And the only traffic you need to worry about is traffic on your left. If there's no one on your left, just go. And you no longer have to worry about getting a gap in both directions of high-speed flow. Instead, you need a gap in one direction of low-speed flow. Much easier decision to make. So that's why the injuries are so low. It's a simple decision, and the penalty for a mistake is minor comparatively. So it's a really good solution, and like I said, that's why Federal Highways has picked up on these. And like I said, in every location, in Okemos, Michigan, in Vail, Colorado, in Montpelier, Vermont, everywhere where they first proposed one of these, the initial reaction, Mr. Mayor, was this is a crazy idea, right? 66% of the people were opposed, including the local newspapers. It was the same in all three locations, oddly enough. You know? And then after they built it, it was a flip-flop. The traffic was so efficient, and it was pretty to look at. It had all these nice characteristics. People just turned around. One guy wrote to the newspaper in Lansing and said, "I was wrong. This is great." You know?
Well, it cuts down commute time too.
Yeah, I mean, and it's one of the principles about it is you drive slower and get there sooner. because you've got less delay at the intersection. The other, another thing that you can do with it is that you can make a 2-lane road carry almost as much traffic as a 4-lane road, right? Because in an urban system, the restriction on capacity is the intersections, right? When you put in a signal, you back up a big long line of traffic, right? If you can't get that line of traffic through on a single green phase, that's level service F. So they have to add a second lane. So what you get is a whole bunch of 5-lane roads all over the country, right? And then if you've got a 2-lane queue backed up, you've got to have 2 lanes on the other side. So boom, you turn this big slug of traffic loose, and it's got to have 2 lanes on the other side. So you got to widen every road. What the Brits figured out is, since the intersections control the capacity, they just take the single lane road, flare it to 2 or 3 lanes at the roundabout, channel it through the intersection, and then taper it back down again. So they don't have to widen the whole road. It's, you know, and that principle is so powerful that Oakland County, Michigan, which is the first big suburban area north of Detroit, just massive amounts of people moved into it over the last 30 years, overloaded their road system. All they had was 2-lane roads. And, you know, 500,000 people moved in overnight, overloaded all the roads. And they realized they couldn't afford to build 5-lane roads in the entire county. And so they've started building roundabouts like crazy. Yeah, I'd show it to you, but
Well,
there's so many. They've built hundreds of them now. But it was a long process. Sorry?
Whiskey you're gonna buy me again?
What kind do you want?
well, does anybody have any other questions or?
Yeah, sorry about talking about roundabouts. I just love the thing.
Good. Do you want our surveys or?
Yes, absolutely.
And if anybody wants any follow-up, let us know.
Thank you.
You can always get in touch with us via the Facebook page, our Facebook page, our offices. And things like that. I really appreciate everybody coming out.
Yeah, thank you.
Any more surveys?